Amy Coney Barrett, I read her book recently on the law, learning from the law. And in it, she's very hard against Ketanji Brown Jackson, who's a fellow justice on the court. And her words do burn, her critique, her response. And this was in an actual opinion of the court. And she just took down Ketanji Brown's reasoning, just knocked it to the floor. But she said something after it that I think applies here. She said, I take issue with ideas, and I will argue with ideas. I don't take issue or argue with people. And I feel when I step back after 12 years, and look, I intensely covered every move of Pope Francis, as I did the past pontificates before him. It wasn't personal. I never met Pope Francis. I knew the other popes intimately. I'd never met Pope Francis. I saw him, I covered him, I listened to him. He knew me. I have it secondhand that he watched closely the show. And there were some attempts on my career made by the Vatican.
He wasn't a fan?
No, he wasn't a fan. But he wasn't a fan because I was pointing out, I think, in charity and in the family and without rancor. We didn't say he's not the Pope or he should be removed or go after him or ignore him or did he fund him? That's not what we said. All myself and my little posse, Jerry Murray and Robert Arroyo, all we were saying was, this is what the church has always taught. Pope Francis is saying this. These things don't seem to cohere. And Jerry Murray was so brilliant, he still does it. He'll say, when there's a disagreement like this, he says, Holy Father, I hope you'll avert this course. This is a problem. Maybe he's been misinformed on this, but here's what the church teaches. Here's the clarity. Here's the canon law. Here's what other popes have said. I don't think you can do this. In charity, you've got to fix this. That's a plea. That's like going to your father who's in a drunken rage and knocking things down in the other room and saying, Daddy, please don't knock this vase over. It's our family heirloom. This belonged to our great-great-grandmother. Please don't destroy this. Just sit down. We're going to take you in the other room. Calm down. And hoping that peace will prevail and sanity will prevail. And look, in some ways, it could have been a lot worse, frankly. It was headed for a lot worse.
Was it?
Still, there are traumatic, awful things that happened.
Like what?
Like saying you can divorce your wife, take up with a lady at the coffee shop, and on Sunday, you and your new girlfriend can go present yourselves for communion. And if you have a conversation with your pastor and he says, oh, I like both of you, all look great together, you can go receive the body and blood, soul and divinity of Jesus Christ and as a visible sign publicly of your communion, not only with the church, but with the people around you and with the vow you took to your wife. Mm-hmm. That is incoherent. This is madness. This is crazy. And to in any way enshrine that kind of sand in the gears, I don't understand that. Maybe that's my idiotic layman's view of this. And look, I'm not a theologian. I'm not a cleric. I'm just an observer of this. I'm a journalist who asks questions. But it doesn't cohere in my mind. And I think in the minds of a lot of people, it didn't cohere. Certainly more brilliant than I. Raised issue with this, warned about this, and yet that synod on the family in the 11th hour, they force-fed this in a footnote, this idea. But it only takes a footnote, as Vatican II proved. The exception becomes the rule. And as I've said 1,000 times, and it's the great fear I have, Matt, when I see these things beginning, because I usually can see them way down the road. You see the inkling of it, and I instantly, my alarms are going off. But I know where this goes. And what will happen is a group of people will champion this. They will spread it large and wide, and it becomes accepted practice. And then the practice becomes the doctrine. And they say, but the doctrine hasn't changed. Sweetheart, the doctrine doesn't have to change.
The tail wags the dog.
You've already killed the doctrine. Doctrine is meaningless. If I start wearing a clown hat and a funny nose to Mass, and I can convince 5 other people who know me from TV to do the same, and suddenly we all walk in on, a year from now, and it looks like Barnum and Bailey, I don't care what your rules are. I've changed the rules. New rule. This is the new rule. It's a chaos. This is a way of chaos. And that's my greatest concern about all of this.
Certainly, I think people got things wrong about Pope Francis. I'm one of them. I remember when he was going on Hulu for that documentary called The Pope Speaks. I thought, there's no way this goes well. This is going to be an absolute
Was this with the young people? He's
Yeah.
sitting around with like the drug addict and the prostitute?
Well, I don't remember that. But
They were.
I
don't know.
Oh, were they?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. One was a drug addict. One was like a prostitute.
I thought to myself, either he's going to misspeak or Hulu will edit it such that it seems that he misspoke.
Yeah.
But he was really strong against abortion. I was like, okay, I got that wrong. So fair enough. I think there are times in which the kind of Pope-splaining, as it were, was helpful. But what do you think the psychological genesis is of this Pope-splaining? Do you think it's that they see what he's doing and saying and they think, no, that's completely in line with Catholic doctrine and none of it is confusing?
Well,
or is it that they are just sort of afraid to live in a church where everything is confusing?
It's the Santa Claus doctrine, which I suffered from. I said it earlier. The Santa Claus doctrine is one that you love Santa. He brings you gifts. He's happy. Think of all that's wrapped up in Santa Claus. And look, Santa still comes to our house, always did. He still comes. He does, really, every Christmas. I love Santa Claus. But the Pope is not Santa Claus. And I think for many Catholics, we became accustomed because of the clarity and the brilliance and the holiness of the men that we lived through in much of our childhood and early adulthood. You had expectations of what a pope was supposed to be. And so there's a knee-jerk defense mechanism that kicks in when anybody says, but the Pope, why is he saying that? Don't you say. There's an instant defense mechanism. It's normal. There's a part of me that thinks it's almost sweet at this point. But we can't suffer from that. We're adults. We have to clearly, particularly when there are problems. We're not talking about, whether he decided to wear the red shoes that Benedict wore or not. I could care less. I mean, I could care less. I prefer him to wear the red shoes because I know what they mean. But a lot of people don't. They think they're just fancy Prada, the luxurious show-offs. That's not what that means. That means his willingness to bleed. In the white outfit, he's showing the mark of the apostles, bloody feet that his Savior had, whom he now represents. That's what the costume is meant to present. That's a secondary issue. But when you're talking about core doctrine, marriage, life, the sacraments, that's all there is. Those three things really contain all there is: marriage, life, and the sacraments. If the Pope can't clearly articulate and defend those in the public square, you're right, in a world of chaos that is undermining them, attacking them, then we have to step back and say, what's up here? What gives? What's happening? That's all I did for 12 years.
Yeah.
It's all I do every day. But I commend when wonderful things are said, and we did compliment Pope Francis, and there were times where, as you said, he came out guns a-blazing on abortion, on gender ideology of all things. But then the incoherence kicked in, because then we're writing a letter to, a transgender person who came to the Vatican and had lunch with him, and he refers to the guy as dear sister, he writes in the letter, dear sister,
Really?
that Pope Francis wrote this letter. And of course, the New York Times publishes that and says, look, dear sister, the Pope is acknowledging. Well, that's not what he said for the last 4 years. That's not what he said here. But you see where it doesn't matter. Practice becomes doctrine. Yeah. And doctrine becomes irrelevant. Because unlike you and a lot of the people who sit at this table, most of the lay people and most of the world will never open the catechism, will never dig deep into the church fathers or the doctrine or what sustains or created that articulation of the doctrine. They won't go there. So they're reliant on someone to show it to them. Mother Teresa, what's a great thing she said? Don't preach. Be the gospel. Be the gospel. It's the same rule. And I worry when it's not practiced, it leads to inordinate confusion. And that's why we're in this chaos.
Thank you very much for watching that Pints with Aquinas clip. If you like it, do me a favor, click like and subscribe. And please offer a Hail Mary for the work of Pints with Aquinas and all the people we're trying to reach. God bless you.